Looks like a nice day out there. I'm going to head out there pretty soon. Gotta take my dog out for a walk pretty soon. Poor girl, she's all drugged out there. So, yeah, she got a bum leg, eh? So, but anyway, I made a video in one of my World War III updates yesterday, and I was saying how, gee, I guess I spoke too soon, about how women, the draft for the women in the States. Now, this is going to go to every NATO country out there. Why? Because, again, if you want mass depopulation, you've got to kill both men and women, right? So if you've been following my channel, or maybe you're new to the channel, whatever, you might not like what I have to say here, but you know, I don't tend to do political correctness or anything like that. But anyway, it goes like this. There was a bill proposed in Congress a couple of weeks ago or whatever about women being drafted and to fight on the front line. Now, you have to understand what's going on in the States right now is recruitment, I believe, is at an all-time low. The last time I remember hearing about a year ago, maybe it's come up since then, but I don't think so. I believe it's at an all-time low. And they can't get young men to sign up anymore. I think what's happened is, well, there's a bunch of things that have happened. Number one, the gays in the military being so outspoken and transgendered and all that. That's going to take your heterosexual war machine man and say, I'm not going to fucking do that. You know, it's true that's the way they're going to be. I mean, that's not the type of guy that wants to be around diversity. And I'm just being honest that they don't want, G.I. Joe is going to be a lot more heterosexual, a lot more, straightforward male. That's what it is. They're not looking to go back to high school. They definitely don't want to deal with the diversity thing, and that's probably one reason. The other is that it's faith in the people commanding you, and if again people follow leaders, if they don't see leaders, they don't follow. And they're seeing that the military is being gutted with the people that are really good keep getting fired, or whatever, and the people that they're promoting are again political correct or whatever, or yes men or whatever. So they know that you won't be able to rely on these people in a worst case scenario. And so now what they've been doing is toting the women's lib thing, saying yes, women should be allowed to fight in combat on the front line and stuff like that. And they know this is a risk. Joe Biggs from InfoWars, he did a little skit there and showed some footage of Kurdish fighters stopping a Mad Max ISIS suicide bomber truck. It's quite spectacular. Like, I mean, Hollywood couldn't make it that good. You know what I mean? Like, that's what combat looks like. And these guys weren't what you'd call in the thick of it. This is just one crazy guy who's willing to blow himself up, driving up with this kind of makeshift armored truck. And before it hits the bend, and it's like everybody's just spraying this thing with everything they got. Finally, I think somebody whacked it with an RPG, and big fireball, black smoke, and things rolling and exploding. And I was like, that's pretty freaking apocalyptic, But if you look, this is going to sound sick, but I'm sure you hear a couple of guys giggling at the end of it, like, it was actually kind of fun. It was like a turkey shoot, right? But when they're shooting back, it's not quite so fun, right? But I'm not trying to play it down, but I mean, yeah, so you got a completely different mentality of people there. Why? They've grown up in war. All they know is war. Joe Biggs makes, like the Kurdish women that are fighting, the YPG and all that. Yeah, those women, that's all they've ever known was living in war zones and that kind of thing. So, they've got a generation, literally Generation Kill, like the movie Generation Kill. That's on all sides. To some of these jihadists, okay, it's like Woodstock for them. To other ones, it's because all they know. So human life, well, okay, kill or be killed. There's no emotion to it, which is that's the sad part. It's so apocalyptic. Doesn't mean it's not terrifying or whatever, but they're so, they're so acclimatized to it. That's one thing. That said, westernized women. I mean, we had this article talking about maternity instead of fraternity leave, maternity leave. There's this girl in the New York Times or whatever. I didn't read the article, so I'm going to bash it at a minimum. But basically, she's a single woman, career woman, watched other women take time off to raise kids, and thought, well, it would be nice if I could have something like that, and other women could have something like that. Again, very self-centered. So again, let's get our company to pay you to sit at home for 6 months type of thing, and take, or 9 months or whatever the fraternity leave is, or a year, whatever it is. And, so you could have some quality time for yourself. How do you think a person like that is going to do in combat? You know what I mean? They're going to lose their entitlement mentality very quickly. If you look at how broken so many veterans are, it doesn't matter where you go in the world, you look at the veterans. These people after the war, man, they just fall apart. They fall apart. Adrenaline's gone. Their cause is gone. The horror's still there. And, and you can even listen to when Joe Biggs is talking about it, like, kind of like, it's such a liability for men to have women fighting on the front line. And I use Jessica Lynch as the example. And of course, the media and the movie about Jessica Lynch made her look like she was the superhero and to inspire women. When they come out and they tell you it's a lie, okay, no, well, that didn't really happen, but we wanted to promote women. It is a false sense of security. It is setting people up to fail disastrously. And guys will instinctively white knight whatever. And I know that my MGTOW crowd said, well, I'm not going to do that. Yeah, you probably will. It'll be instinctual. You could be the most misogynistic man on the planet. You see, heart of the moment, a woman in distress. You might, you'll probably do this for a man too, but you're almost instinctively going to run to the aid of a woman. Now, while there's a hail of bullets coming down, how many guys get killed trying to save that girl over there? You're breaking the concentration of guys that, okay, they know there's men following beside them, but they're still focused on the guys ahead of them that are shooting at them. I'll deal with these guys after. And I mean, that's even hard enough. So add a woman into that. And most guys that are not misogynistic, they're going to run out and get killed. And that's pretty much what happened in the Jessica Lynch case. Now, I'm not saying there's not going to be any exceptional women, but there's going to be so few of them that it's going to be quite disastrous on the battlefield. Because with Jessica Lynch, she was injured in the back of the vehicle. And, an 18-year-old guy, again, they barely mention him. I mean, he held off like 25 fighters or something like that till he took a couple of bullets to the chest himself or a couple to the face or whatever. But yeah, he went down fighting for sure. And even Jessica Lynch said, no, I was in the back, terrified, wounded. He stayed, I mean, think of the guilt she has to live with. It's like, he stayed for me. You know what I mean? Like, he could have left me there, but he stayed for me, I mean, I can't imagine even, guy to guy. I mean, it's like, fuck, that guy died for me. No, save yourself. That's the way guys usually normally think. No, fuck, get out of here, go. And then, 5 guys die trying to save you. You're going to... That's why there's 22 veterans per day killing themselves. The guilt. It's the guilt. And for PTSD, how much, how many... I mean, don't worry. There'll always be money to go to war. I mean, heck, Greece that is broke, they got money to go to war. Italy broke, but they got money to go to war, But when it comes to veterans, we don't have enough money to take care of them. And yeah, even for the women, they probably would put more money into the women just because the way social programming works. There's tons of programs for women out there. There's almost nothing for men. When men are disposed of, there's nothing for them whatsoever. There is no shelters for men. There is no extra funding and counseling for men. There's just nothing there for us. That's why you see such a disparity of men from success to failure and everything in between. That's why it's so drastic in comparison to women, where women, no matter where you look in the world, they all have about average intelligence. They all have about average quality of life. Some a little higher, some a little lower, but it's like here and here, where men it's here and here. So it's like, okay, got a huge group of men here, huge group of men in the center, and a huge group of men successful, So success to failure, it's for men, because we're on our own all the time. There is no safety net for us, that type of thing. Now add the element of watching women getting blown apart in front of you. What's that going to do? Even the most psychotic, like, I mean, you look at the jihadists, okay, and I listen to some of these guys. Like, these guys are so, they're so screwed up, like, their mentality is so screwed up because of the horror that they witnessed. So, would you call it PTSD? Probably, but they're still living it. You know what I mean? They haven't had a chance for peace ever. You have people that grew up in a savage Mad Max type world. It's to the point where some are so desensitized to, you got a battle going on, you got kids playing soccer in the middle of it. So, okay, well, as long as we'll just move to the side, kind of like, when we're playing hockey here, okay, game on, okay, they're shooting again, okay, game off, okay, they're reloading, okay, game on. Like, yeah, it's that apocalyptic. No, the West isn't ready for that. With that said, so women did protest this, when it went to the Congress or whatever, or the Senate or whatever to pass it. And apparently it passed yesterday. I'm like, So yeah, so this time women's again, careful what you wish for. You want total equality. Well, you have to understand the way government works now. Equality is where it's beneficial for the government, no longer beneficial for women. They used women to get the women's lib, to get you to vote away this right, that right, whatever. Because women typically vote left and for all the socialism and everything like that. Now, as far as the war stuff, no, I'm not blaming it all on women. I mean, people have to understand, like, government at some point, when it gets so big, it becomes an entity of itself, and it just gets bigger. Doesn't matter if you vote left or right; it's the same agenda on both sides. And in that sense, yeah, but the stepping stone is voting for all the socialism to make big government big in the first place. Now, as far as the neocon wars, they're Democrat wars. The Democrats are neocons as well. All wars are bankers' wars, and all wars are for Israel. That's what U.S. foreign policy is built upon, is Israeli policy. No, it's not obvious. You have to look into it. If you understand the Greater Israel Project and also look into the Samson option, then you'll figure out how many women they're going to be willing to throw into the Mad Max world. I'm not saying women can't fight in combat and be effective. I mean, some of the highest snipers in the world are Russian women, because of the way communist Russia in World War II is back. Man and women. There's no distinction between men and women. There are no genders. Everything's a social construct, and everybody's equal cannon fodder, except for the ruling elites. And that's what happened in Russia. And you had women fighting alongside the men to a degree. But what you had is, because the women weren't quite as fast as the men, they were slowing up the men. What they did is they delegated them to a different type of position, such as like snipers, where you're not really running and gunning and charging with bayonets as much. You're more, sitting in a tree or behind a building, or the grass and the twigs, and sniping people out. And the women were actually okay at that. So yeah, it was frontline combat. And they did okay with it, but I can pretty much imagine those women mentally were destroyed after. But yeah, that's what it is. So yeah, women can be used in combat, but I mean, now they have no choice. If you're eligible for the draft, you're going to be drafted. It's a sad day, Even though I'm up here in Canada, I'm like, I mean, the idea that okay, if you got your G.I. Jane that I'm a woman and anything a man can do, a woman can do better on heels on a skateboard going backwards on a Sunday, okay, fine, power to you. But to drag all the other women that don't really want to be there, I mean, how low are they going to lower? And I'm not bashing on women, but they're going to lower the standard so that the women that can't make the standard, I mean, because think of all the training of all the ones that won't make it, right? I mean, I don't know what the washout rates are just on the men. I'm pretty sure it's pretty high for just a regular soldier. Even here in Canada, when I remember watching the Canadian training, I forget what it was called, but anyway, it's very interesting anyway. And one of those drill instructors says, yes, the standards have come down a bit because people are fat now. They're not in shape anymore, so we have to work you up to it. And they do. And when they end their basic training, you have to understand, basic training is just to make you trainable enough to be trainable for something better. That'll make you a basic soldier. That'll make you able to use a firearm, a few small arms, whatever have you, navigate, first aid, general operations, that thing. Very, very bottom rung. But that also puts you perfectly in the positions where you're going to be in the mass fields of cannon fodder. You're the general. You want to be, if you're in the military, you want to specialize in something. You don't want to be in the basic grunt, because you're gonna, you will be a grunt, and if you understand what the grunt stands for. Yeah, I always laughed when it was always I worked with an Air Force guy, and he told me all about it. I said, grunt? Yeah. I said, why do you call them grunts? And then he told me. Yeah. I was like, yeah, that's what they call them, yeah, grunts. Okay. But the thing is that, yeah, like, women now have lost that freedom and privilege of, if you want to use, I hate to use the term privilege, because there is no privilege. There is no privilege. It's, you can do this now, or you got to fight for it. So it's either, right now, what you call privilege now becomes a struggle to fight back. So now, women, are they going to be able to overturn this? No. Obama's trying to get funding as we speak for war with the Russians. I mean, the U.S. is really trying to get a war with the Russians. I was listening to douchebag Lindsey Graham talk yesterday. I hate that guy with a pat. He's such an asshole. He really is. He seems like he's really, I'm for the people. No, he's for war and nothing but war. There's nothing good about that man at all. And I digress, but yeah. But guys and guys like him, McCain, same thing. They can't wait to get you killed. Hillary Clinton, all the women that are going to vote for Hillary Clinton, she's guaranteeing your daughters are going to be drafted. Hillary Clinton will have us in a war so fast with the Russians, it will not be funny. You have to understand her mentality towards the Russians. And when you do, yeah. And again, yeah, like they all take their marching orders from Henry Kissinger, so to speak, and he's negotiating the war with the Russians as we speak, most likely because all the meeting between him and Putin are behind closed doors. Apparently, him and Putin are friends. I don't know if they're friends or business acquaintances or how to define their relationship. But at the end of the day, yes, your daughters are going to be drafted for the military. Pretty soon, it is going to get to mandatory service. Obama talked about this. You can't have a new world order and a one world government without a jackboot thugs, male or female. Yeah, we are moving towards that time where going to the military was an option. That I think the next generation they're screwed. They're going to have no choice. Now that said, again, will there be any GI Janes and getting medals of honor? Probably. There are probably going to be some, but I think the few that will be really, and of course the history books will boast the girl that, okay, yeah, she took on 25 soldiers by herself and survived and saved these people, yeah. But they're not going to talk about the 80,000 men that died trying to save this woman, this woman, this woman, this woman. You know what I mean? And again, I know that it's not going to be popular to say that, but you have to go watch some, and this is what gets me, and again, definitely don't do this with kids around. And if you have a weak stomach or you're a sensitive person, don't watch too much. You'll get actual PTSD by watching this stuff on. I kid you not. It is very harsh to watch people getting blown apart. Just to see that stuff, I watch war footage of Syria and stuff like that. And there was one. It was an airstrike or something. I don't know who bombed who, but there's this guy wandering around, and it looked like he was holding a cloth, and I realized it was a head and parts of a body. It was just completely shredded. It was like, that was a man? And this guy walking around, like, how fucked in the head is he going to be after? Yeah, I'm like, okay, I'm watching this through a disconnection of, the internet. I'm like, that's insanely, wow. Fortunately, I'm one of those people I could, it's like crime scene investigators. Some people can handle the blood, some people can't. Now, seeing it firsthand, that's a different story. I don't know how it'd be firsthand, but I'm like, that's bad. That's really bad. And I don't think you can get desensitized to it. But the thing is, and I can tell you, like, from a hunting point of view, and stuff like that. This is why I tell people, like, it's the last thing you ever want. It's not like it is on TV. You could smell it. You can hear it. You can. There's things that, there's a difference when you're taking down an animal that you're going to eat. You're taking a well-placed shot to make sure the animal dies as quickly as possible so that you can, harvest the meat or whatever. But you're going to smell it. Yeah, you're going to smell what guts smell like. You're going to smell like, you're going to smell the blood. You'll feel the heat from it. That type of thing. It's a different thing. That said, that's a lot different than spraying and praying in responding to people that are shooting at you and hitting them just about anywhere, blowing their guts out, and they're down on the ground screaming for their mom. That's going to be a little bit more tough to take. And you're going to find out right away that, like in the movies, the guy shoots and bang, the bad guys just fall over. Well, no. In reality, sometimes they get hit and they're still shooting back for a minute or two. They don't die instantly. That's what you're going to find out. Oh yeah, but I'll just shoot him in the head. It doesn't work like that. Okay. And even at that, sometimes they don't die when you shoot them in the head. Again, people are not prepared. Nobody's prepared for that. No matter how much you train, nobody's prepared for that. The twitch, when things die, sometimes they twitch. That'll freak people out seeing something dead twitching on the ground. As a hunter, a trapper, I know what happens when things die. You're going to shit yourself when you die. You shit and piss yourself when you die. Everything lets go. That type of thing. But a human being, that's a different thing. I mean, you're looking at your own species, and you're looking at something that you just destroyed, and now you have to live with that. Now, that said, I think that's where the guys get the nightmares from, because again, nobody. World War One. They talked about this in the movie Passchendaele, because there was so much barbed wire and poles and stuff like that, and a lot of the trenches had planks to stay above the mud. They would build like just like trench walkways, and the artillery would come in and blow up barbed wire and stuff like that, and there'd be dead guys, and they'd be hanging in the barbed wire up in the air like a bunch of scarecrows, half shredded. Sometimes it would be blast would be just far enough away not to kill a guy, but just powerful enough to blow off his arms and legs, and you just see a torso flying through the air, or parts of a torso. Syrian footage I was watching, there was a guy like still alive. I don't know how long he lived, but he lived quite long. Basically gone from basically there was just that much left of him and a few guts hanging out, and he was alive for like 5 minutes, something like that. Like, I mean, I'm sure you'd be in shock and whatever, but he was alive, like a half a torso, like still alive for 5 minutes. Like, wow, you can't imagine seeing that. But now you have no choice. So women have no choice. Again, it becomes that careful what you wish for. There was probably women trying to spearhead this thing. Yes, women need to be able to fight in combat because we're women. We can do anything a man can do, without thinking about the reality of the 22 veterans per day committing suicide. And there's a reason for that, but you won't know when there's no support groups for you. Yeah, how do you like them apples? So yeah, so your Democratic president is okay with this. I don't see him out in the media saying that women shouldn't. No. And some people might say, well, no, women should be coddled. And the thing is Mark Dice did a love him or hate him. Mark Dice is a rude bastard. He is, but he's good. I love his stuff. I don't watch him all the time, but he always his man on the street stuff is just priceless. Sometimes terrifyingly funny. Sad and funny, comedy and tragedy at the same times. Other times, not so funny. And almost 9 out of 10 women are like, not for, no, I don't want to be drafted, for equality. No. Okay. We don't want to be that equal. But you can't pick and choose anymore. That's the thing. This is the careful what you wish for stuff. And the thing is what you're finding with the men is, well, if we have to go, they have to go. You know what I mean? A lot of men are getting to that point where it's like, fuck them. They want to prove it. Prove themselves. Go ahead, ladies first. And the thing is, again, for the women that sign up and want to actually do that, I say, okay, let them. But what are you going to have? Male units and female units? Are you going to have them fighting side by side? I mean, it's not Hollywood. It's not going to work that way. Other things, they know men and women together in combat is a distraction. They know this. It's been proven and proven and proven. It's a distraction. And that's obviously because it's a male-female thing. Right, so especially was it Joe Biggs was saying from Inforce in Ranger School, he says there's going to be female Rangers that are going to be in control. They're going to be in command. Why? They're going to be put there. And you just look at the Army standard for men and women. It's not the same standard for both. It's a lot easier. Heck, if you're a man, you really want to serve, say you're transgendered, go in the military, then you only have to pass the lower standards of the women. Yeah, you know what I mean? There you go. You can milk that one. You're guaranteed to get in. Just do that, make it easy on yourself, and then, yeah. So, yeah, and then change once you pass it. It's like, okay, no, I'm a guy. I want to be a guy now. I'm a transgendered man that's in a man's body that wants to be a man. Yeah, there you go. So you can milk that. I'm pretty sure there's probably people who've already done it. If they were smart, they would have done it that way. Is it cheating? Yeah, of course it's cheating. But this is one thing. It's not men and women have to do the same push-ups or whatever, that type of thing, pin-ups to get in, and it should be. You should never lower standards when you're talking about the defense of your country. And if the women, and there are women that can make the male standard in the push-ups. Okay, so instead of 15 push-ups, they could do the full 25. Is it harder for them? Yes, but you're getting a better quality. The women can do that, so there's no reason to lower that standard. They do it they lower standards for 2 reasons. One is for the women that actually can't make the standard that want to be in there, and 2 for women that would say, oh, it's too hard or whatever. I could probably do it, but it'd be too hard. Oh well, I can do that. I can do the man one. Whatever, but I can do that. So it's to attract women to come in. So the thing is they shouldn't be doing that either. No, you set your standard, and if there are women that are really hardcore that can really make the grade, sure, but they're going to be low in numbers. And even if you were to cut the standards for women to get in the military to to a quarter of what they are now, which would be very, very low. Say 3 push-ups, 3 chin-ups, whatever it is, 3 sit-ups, whatever, just as low as you could possibly go to get in. Even at that, most women aren't going to join the military. It's not their forte. They don't really care about doing that kind of stuff. So the only way to get the numbers, the cannon fodder in there is to just a draft. Okay, well, we're going to fight a war with the Russians. I mean, and the Chinese. I mean, with the Russians, you're looking at a 1 million man army. With the Chinese standing army is about 4 million man army. Not to mention all the other the Chinese. It's how do you add them up? If you add the security forces, you add the special ops jungle forces, all those guys. You're looking and the veterans and conscripts. You could be looking at 700 million man army, 200 million man army. We don't know. Mobility wise, maybe 1 million would be mobile, but as a modern military. But yeah, so there it's different. Yes, the Chinese will, the men and women, they fight on the front line too, sure. Again, different mentality, different mentality. Here, I just don't think it's going to fly. And the thing is it won't fly because the Chinese, okay, they don't lower standards for their women. If you look at the special forces training for the women, you got this 325-pound fat Chinese guy. Well, he's not fat, he's actually full of muscle. Running over the bellies of women that are lying in the ocean, cold water, running over their bellies while they're going, giggling. It's like this guy runs over their bellies like 5 times. Now, there are probably a handful of women that they selected. Say, no, these are our basic recruits, but meanwhile, these women have been training for like 10 years, that type of thing. But you get the idea. But they don't lower the standards there. The men and women fight the same standard. And that means the women are twice as good. They are actually better than the men in their category. When you think about it, they have to be twice as good to meet the match the standard, right? So in that sense, okay, well now you've got a capable fighting force, and you have basically, you didn't politically correct get them there. You told them you're going in and that's it, and you're going to do it this way. And I don't think Western women are ready for that. Not at all. I mean, they're just not ready for that at all. And that's but the question is, why are we getting ready to draft women? That should be the bigger question. Not that we're drafting women, but why are we getting ready to a draft? Isn't it peacetime? Is there, what's around the corner that the world, well, we know what's around the corner. They are trying to get Russia or China to strike first. Again, anything to get into more war. Again, when 53% of your GDP is spent on the military-industrial complex, yeah, you're going to have a lot of death and destruction. So now, yes, your daughters, they're going to be taking your daughters. I'm pretty sure they passed the bill more hush-hush. It's funny, it's not all, again, where's all the women's lib on the media saying, this is great, this is wonderful. Yeah. And I think what you're going to see is, as this draft, whenever it does kick in, it's going to be, you're going to see a lot of draft dodgers. I got a cat outside. Sorry. Not the cat's trapped outside, got the dog trapped inside. But anyway, yeah, very interesting topic. I'd love to hear women's takes on it. I'm pretty sure they're not going to like my take on it. But without kids around, I just dare you to watch some of the gory footage of, and there's no shortage of it. People getting beheaded. Look at the Kurdish women. I'll just finish. There's no shortage of pictures of ISIS holding up women's heads, Kurdish women's heads, that type of thing. That God knows how bad. Like women in combat, the things like a man's going to get shot, killed, maybe tortured, maybe have his balls cut off and stuffed in his mouth and then beheaded, whatever. That's pretty, degrading. That's what they do over there. That's what they're going to be doing. But for the women, I know. But do they rape her for 5 days, 8 days, 6 months, then kill her? Or or are you lucky and they kill you right on the spot? You know what I mean? Like, what's it going to be? That type of thing. The brutality that would be coming to the women would be, particularly Western women. If you look at Cologne, Germany, if you want an indication of what would happen to women in combat, that's what happens to women in a peaceful city of Germany. Yeah. With that kind of invaders. Here in Canada, like there was we won't call him a jihadist yet, but that's the mentality. Yeah, they attacked two women in the Calgary pool. Or CBC doesn't want to touch it because it might be politically incorrect. Yeah, so that's the mentality they have in regular society. What kind of mentality do those guys have in combat? You want to see rape culture? There you go. And it'll be more brutal than that because you're going to have shit blown up around you while this is happening. Yeah, total Mad Max world. So, yeah, if you're a woman, I'd love to hear from you. I know there's some women out there that'll be, no, well, women deserve to be here and deserve. You got to think about things logically. Just because you can do something doesn't mean it's a smart idea. Again, this idea, and you have to understand, if you're advocating for women in frontline combat, you're advocating for yourself to be there as well. Now, from a man's point of view, yeah, there's a lot of guys say, yeah, send them. Then they'll know what it's like. Then they'll understand what men are going through. They'll understand that, freedom isn't free. Now, there's some women that get this, I get that, and they'll be mad at me, for saying, putting it out there like this. But you have to understand what I'm getting at is that it's not going to be the victory they think it is. I don't know of too many women that will actually be happy about this. But this is the careful what you wish for. The third wave feminists, yeah, they're nowhere to be heard screaming against this. Some of them are probably so psychotic that they think that this is a victory. So it's like, yeah. I mean, we're going to be putting men in harm's way and now women in harm's way beyond. And again, there's the odd woman that'll be like, I can do this. I've been in the military for so many years. And great for you. Good for you. But on the other hand, that's not every woman that wants to be there. A draft against men, I mean, you look at Vietnam, you even look at World War II, most guys signed up in World War II not knowing what they were going to go through. And you have to understand, most people didn't understand what happened in World War I by the time World War II came around. Again, we didn't have mass media back then, so grandfather was in World War I, or my dad was in World War I. He never talked about it, so you wouldn't have a clue what you're coming up against, He changed when he came back, but other than that, we don't know what happened. Even my grandfather, he rarely talked about it. Like, he talked about a few things, and every incident he talked about was, people end up dead. Like, that's every incident. Bren gun operator, a bunch of Germans coming across, guy puts his arm down, and just, river of blood, that type of thing. He was in Italy, and they were just starving to death, kind of thing. He was sitting there. This is one non-violent one. He was sitting there. They found a basket of apples. They passed it out, and he was about to eat the apple, and he saw a kid, and he gave the apple to the kid. So they went looking for more food, and they found this wine cellar, and they went down in the wine cellar, him and another guy. And when they got down there was an Italian soldier came in. They both ran out, and as he was running out, the soldier pulled out his machete, and shing, got the guy in the throat beside him. So he never made it out. Why he didn't have his rifle or his gun or whatever, don't know, but it worked out that way. They thought they were in a safer area. And I mean, like, you don't forget stuff like that. So basically, that far from a blade that could have got him, yeah, that type of thing. And then, all kinds of stuff like that. Yeah, just brutality, that type of thing. And, now we're going to do it to the women. I really don't like the idea of it myself. You can call me misogynist if you want, but no, I don't like the idea of men going to war. Unless, I can understand defending your nation. I understand that. But these wars are bankers' wars. Like, what interest do we have in the Middle East? Period. Like, no reason to be there. These were stable countries, maybe not ideal countries, but stable countries before we went in. And we went in for bankers' wars, for oil wars, all that stuff. And for, the Greater Israel Project. That's why we're there. You have to understand how this all plays out. And what they try to do is build up patriotism to the point where it's like blind patriotism, where, no, we're doing this for the freedom of our country. No, Syria was never going to attack the United States. There was no reason to do regime change there. But he's a dictator. But he was stability in the region. Saddam was a horrible person, but who killed more people under Saddam? Like Saddam or the U.S. military trying to bring democracy to the, 1.5 million Iraqis died. God knows how many are still dying because of the destabilization of Iraq. Now you've got ISIS, Libya. I mean, Muammar Gaddafi, was he a good guy? No, but he was stability in the region. Regime change, how did that work out for Libya? How's it doing right now? How many people died in that? The migrant crisis, that's a product of the U.S. foreign policy. I think most people are starting to get it. Now what they're telling you is that now that we, once we can get a war going with Russia and China, now we can put women in it. You have to understand, the next war is not going to be like World War I or World War II. There is, like, they're making everything now so when the war starts, because there's going to be no more manufacturing. You will have Russian jets bombing your factories, just like Allied jets bombed German factories in World War II. Yes, the United States is going to have, well, air power is so mobile now. Like, I mean, the average Russian jet has very long range. Put a couple of drop tanks, it still has, you know, an Su-27 with a drop tank is a 2,700 mile range. Plus it has air-to-air refueling. Their bombers all have 10,000, 12,000 mile ranges pretty much. And plus air-to-air refueling. The MiG-31s, those things can fly in pretty fast at Mach 3. Long, you know, you drop tanks and a few bombs on them. You've got cruise missiles. This is the real thing that'll be killing the manufacturing, is the cruise missiles. You got 1,500 mile, 2,000 mile Russian cruise missiles. The U.S. has nothing to compare with that. The Russians have tons of cruise missiles. And, you know, a cruise missile here, a cruise missile there, can take down a system, you know, knock out the power, sure, you know, like your Lockheed Martins and your General Dynamics, like, I mean, they'll be taken out so quickly that they won't be able to build anything new. It's just, you know, there will not be time to rebuild infrastructure to manufacture things. So whatever you have when the war starts is what you have. Yeah, that's what I mean. So that's not going to work out very well for a big-scale war. So again, everybody's going to have to fight whether they want. Now, what I would hope, but I don't think is going to happen, is that before we can get into a war, you know, we get the right people in place to arrest, you know, your Henry Kissingers, your George Soroses, your Zebra Brzezinskis, all these people, and your Clintons, your Obamas, your Bushes, you know, the whole way down. And then, of course, over in the UK, you got Blairs and whoever, and Camerons and all that. Yeah, the war hawks, get them all. Get them all before they get them before they get us. You know, they need to go to jail, crimes against humanity. And starting these wars in the first place. You know, that's the thing. You wouldn't need to draft women if you weren't going around the planet starting wars. And saying, well, yeah, but we can't just let this country do this. Can't just... No. Trust me, the Chinese, they don't want to shoot first. The Russians don't want to shoot first. They've had lots of opportunities to do it. They're not shooting first. But the United States' government is putting its people into a position. The idea is to fling you into a war so fast that you don't have time to respond to it. And, we got to go and fight. But the thing is, I think it's different this time, because I think there's a lot of people who know, anybody that follows this channel, you know who's trying to get us into a war, you know who's not. Yeah, and I think after the next presidential election, there's some people that think Donald Trump is going to be a war hawk, and other people, I don't know. You know, I don't think he's going to win. It's going to be a Hillary Clinton win. There is no election, if you're wondering. It's pretty much, it's her turn. The fact that that woman is not in prison right now, with the amount of indictments against her, she's got better luck with the law than O.J. Simpson. I swear to God. Like, what deal with the devil they made, who knows, to be able to stay out of jail like that. So yeah, no, she's going to be president. You are going to have a woman president. You're going to have women dying on the front line, that type of thing. How do you get out of it? Well, you have to be really unfit to get out of it. Now, in World War II, there was a guy around here. What he did is he cut off a toe or two with an axe, and he did that. He wasn't fit. Bad vision, that could help you. A lot of people did that. Coming up here to Canada is not going to help you. North American Union is not going to help you. We have cross-border policing now. You come here, they'll just come and get you. So unlike they changed that after the war in Iraq and Afghanistan, because Americans were coming up here as draft dodging. And they did that in Vietnam too. But the difference now is that the SSP, I think it's called, again, the FBI can come up here, or the military police, they can come up here. They got to go through protocols, sure, but they'll come up here and they'll get you. So you can't hide in globalization. If there is, there are no countries anymore. There's no sovereignty. That's what the whole wars are about, right? Is global governance for the United Nations, using central bankers to fund it for the Israeli project, the Greater Israel Project, that type of thing. That's why the wars are going on in the Middle East. But Russia and China, it's the hegemony of. You got to think of the world divided into two: the transatlantic Anglo-American Empire and the Eurasian Pacific Empire, and that's what the Chinese and the Asians are doing. And basically, it's empire fighting empire. But the thing is if the Russians and Chinese wanted to start a war, they've had more than lots of opportunities. So I'm thinking the Russians are the ones keeping us out of the wars predominantly. But at some point, I think the only thing that gets a response from Russia is a direct invasion into Russia. Because shooting down a Russian jet wasn't enough. Buzzing their, putting warships off their coast isn't enough. They're not stupid. They're not going to fire first because they know that's exactly what they want. But you could see the rhetoric as the economy is getting worse, and it's getting worse. The mainstream media hasn't talked about one mass hiring anywhere up here in Canada. Not one. It's always layoffs, always layoffs. Oh, but the job numbers are up, but they're not really up. And the thing is yes, the way we count unemployment here, it's a little better than in the States. But in the States, it's like you guys are in depression, worse than the Great Depression. You have about 30% of your population out of work. And, over 50 some odd percent of your population underemployed, with over 50% of your population on some sort of government assistance. You're going to war. There's no doubt about that. Problem is all the NATO countries that are going to get dragged into it. So this is what we have to look forward to. Again, I would be interested to hear the female approach to this. I know that, again, it sounds like I'm woman bashing, but I'm not. I'm just pointing out reality that it's not going to be very, very nice. There will be, I think if it happens, there will be a great appreciation for the veterans that are sitting on the street. And you'll understand why they're sitting there. The good news is that the Veterans Affairs will probably get a boost in funding for the women, which might trickle down to some of the men. I doubt it, but usually doesn't happen that way. So, yeah. The only thing that can really get us out of the main one is mass civil disobedience. Go to jail, don't go to war. Sure, the few people will get beat up or whatever for not being patriotic, but when it's just thousands and thousands of people ripping up their draft cards, burning them right on, the step of the White House type of thing, I think at that point they're going to say, okay, well, there's nobody willing to fight for the country in that sense. Well, and I want to rephrase it. Nobody willing to fight for false wars. And these are all false wars. We don't need to be fighting ISIS. ISIS was created by Israel, the United States. This is openly admitted now. They call them moderate rebels. There's hardly any moderate rebels in there. They're pretty much all, again, Al-Qaeda turned into Al-Nusra. Al-Nusra turned into ISIS. ISIS and Al-Nusra, they have different ideologies. Yes, but the enemy of my enemy is my friend. And you can see who's bombing whom, that type of thing. And it's very, very clear to see. Even there was a few Israeli generals that came and blew we train these guys up in Jordan and stuff like that, and Saudi Arabia and Turkey. They're again, ISIS running back and forth across the border. So it's a false war to begin with. The fact that you got U.S. soldiers in Syria right now, either these guys are stupid as anything and have no idea what's going on, or they don't care. Because to follow those orders when it's a false law, that. Saudi Arabia and Turkey is harboring ISIS. The Israelis treat ISIS fighters in their hospitals, but you're going to follow orders anyway? Yeah, these are the people I worry about, the ones that just follow orders. Well, I have to follow the orders. No, you don't. They're bad orders. It's a faulty war. Yeah, but I'll be court-martialed, I'll be this. Yes, martyr yourself for once. Do the right thing. Because think about it. Just because you want to make sure you can get your paycheck or whatever. No, a real patriot, again, you got to pave the dangerous road for others to safely walk down. And if you're not stepping up to the plate and you're going to these places, when they're faulty wars, if you don't know, that's one thing. But when you know that they're faulty wars, that, again, you're putting yourself in risk for nothing. It's really, there's enough whistleblowers out there that, there's no reason to be in Syria at all. Syria was supposed to go down so that they can get a war going with Iran. So, yeah. It's a fake war. It's a false war. It's a banker war, an Israeli banker war for using U.S. foreign policy. I can't stress that enough. So yeah, the people need to step up to the plate and kind of put their government, let them know who's boss. You know what I mean? But anyway, I'm gonna leave it at that. So ladies, I'd love to hear from you. Love me or hate me, but I think it's something that it's going to be a harsh reality whether you're for it or against it. Your choice has been removed. Welcome to the club. Now up here in Canada, they haven't had the draft since World War II, but that could change like that. Trudeau would bring it in. He would bring it in. He would bring it in, saying again, trying to promote it like diversity and equality. Yeah, that's how they'll stoop to that level. They do that. But anyway, I'm gonna leave it at that. So you guys tell me what you think. So if you like this kind of content, links down below. Thank you so much to everybody who has. Right. Oh, and if you want to make a couple of bucks for yourself, you can sign up on my TSU link. It's also down below. It doesn't cost you anything to join up. It's a lot of fun and a little bit of a break from all this serious stuff. And it works like Facebook. You can post pictures and memes and what have you. Next to that, rate, subscribe, share, comment, like. Be true to yourself, be true to others. Always do the right thing, and have yourself a great day. G'day, hi, and welcome. All right, so looks like a nice day out there. I'm going to head out there pretty soon. Gotta take my dog out for a walk pretty soon. Poor girl, she's all drugged out there, so yeah, gosh, she got a bum leg, eh? So, but anyway, I made a video in one of my World War III updates yesterday, and I was saying how, gee, I guess I spoke too soon, about how women, the draft for the women in the States. Now, this is going to go to every NATO country out there. Why? Because, again, if you want mass depopulation, you've got to kill both men and women, right? So if you've been following my channel, or maybe you're new to the channel, whatever, you might not like what I have to say here, but you know, I don't tend to do political correctness or anything like that. But anyway, it goes like this. There was a bill proposed in Congress a couple of weeks ago or whatever about women being drafted and to fight on the front line. Now, you have to understand what's going on in the States right now is recruitment, I believe, is at an all-time low. The last time I remember hearing about a year ago, maybe it's come up since then, but I don't think so. I believe it's at an all-time low. And they can't get young men to sign up anymore. I think what's happened is, well, there's a bunch of things that have happened. Number one, the gays in the military being so outspoken and transgendered and all that. That's going to take your heterosexual war machine man and say, I'm not going to fucking do that. You know, it's true. That's the way they're going to be. I mean, that's not the type of guy that wants to be around diversity. And I'm just being honest that they don't want, G.I. Joe is going to be a lot more heterosexual, a lot more, straightforward male. That's what it is. They're not looking to go back to high school. They definitely don't want to deal with the diversity thing, and that's probably one reason. The other is that it's faith in the people commanding you, and if again people follow leaders, if they don't see leaders, they don't follow. And they're seeing that the military is being gutted with the people that are really good keep getting fired, or whatever, and the people that they're promoting are again political correct or whatever, or yes men or whatever. So they know that you won't be able to rely on these people in a worst case scenario. And so now what they've been doing is toting the women's lib thing, saying yes, women should be allowed to fight in combat on the front line and stuff like that. And they know this is a risk. Joe Biggs from InfoWars, he did a little skit there and showed some footage of Kurdish fighters stopping a Mad Max ISIS suicide bomber truck. It's quite spectacular. Like, I mean, Hollywood couldn't make it that good. You know what I mean? Like, that's what combat looks like. And these guys weren't what you'd call in the thick of it. This is just one crazy guy who's willing to blow himself up, driving up with this kind of makeshift armored truck. And before it hits the bend, and it's everybody's just spraying this thing with everything they got. Finally, I think somebody whacked it with an RPG, and they, big fireball, black smoke, and things rolling and exploding. And I was like, that's pretty freaking apocalyptic, But if you look, this is going to sound sick, but I'm sure you hear a couple of guys giggling at the end of it, like, that was actually kind of fun. It was like a turkey shoot, right? But when they're shooting back, it's not quite so fun, right? But I'm not trying to play it down, but I mean, yeah, so you got a completely different mentality of people there. Why? They've grown up in war. All they know is war. Joe Biggs makes, like the Kurdish women that are fighting, the YPG and all that. Those women, that's all they've ever known was living in war zones and that kind of thing. So, they've got a generation, literally Generation Kill, like the movie Generation Kill. That's on all sides. To some of these jihadists, okay, it's like Woodstock for them. To other ones, it's because they know. So human life, well, okay, kill or be killed. There's no emotion to it, which is that's the sad part. It's so apocalyptic. Doesn't mean it's not terrifying or whatever, but they're so, they're so acclimatized to it. That's one thing. That said, westernized women. I mean, we had this article talking about maternity instead of fraternity leave, a maternity leave. There's this girl in the New York Times or whatever. I didn't read the article, so I'm going to bash it at a minimum. But basically, she's a single woman, career woman, watched other women take time off to raise kids and thought, well, it would be nice if I could have something like that and other women could have something like that. Again, very self. So again, let's get our company to pay you to sit at home for 6 months type of thing and take, or 9 months or whatever the fraternity leave is, or a year, whatever it is. and so you could have some quality time for yourself. Yeah. How do you think a person like that is going to do in combat? You know what I mean? They're going to lose their entitlement mentality very quickly. If you look at how broken so many veterans are, it doesn't matter where you go in the world, you look at the veterans. These people after the war, man, they just fall apart. They fall apart. Adrenaline's gone. Their cause is gone. The horror's still there. And you can even listen to when Joe Biggs is talking about it, like, kind of like, it's such a liability for men to have women fighting on the front line. And I use Jessica Lynch as the example. And of course, the media and the movie about Jessica Lynch made her look like she was the superhero and to inspire women. When they come out and they tell you it's a lie, okay, no, well, that didn't really happen, but we wanted to promote women. It is a false sense of security. It is setting people up to fail disastrously. And guys will instinctively white knight whatever. And I know that my MGTOW crowd said, well, I'm not going to do that. Yeah, you probably will. It'll be instinctual. You could be the most misogynistic man on the planet. You see, heart of the moment, a woman in distress. You might, you'll probably do this for a man too, but you're almost instinctively going to run to the aid of a woman. Now, while there's a hail of bullets coming down, how many guys get killed trying to save that girl over there? You're breaking the concentration of guys that, okay, they know there's men following beside them, but they're still focused on the guys ahead of them that are shooting at them. I'll deal with these guys after. And I mean, that's even hard enough. So add a woman into that. And most guys that are not misogynistic, they're going to run out and get killed. And that's pretty much what happened in the Jessica Lynch case.